Murphy's back at it again with a big ol' honkin' family tree, and oh boy, this one's big. This family tree gave me a serious headache trying to organize the actual tree for it. It was a nightmare setting up and arranging where everyone goes on the pedigree, so a fan of mine on Tumblr, username Plausible Deniability, very kindly helped me out by making a big ol' family tree for me. So a big thank you to Plausible for making this video plausible. So that you aren't stuck waiting for a distant relative of hers who's never going to show up, here's every cat who will be getting gened up on this Friday night. And yes, I know that White Storm is Ashfur and Ferncloud's dad. I will be covering the infamous Dustfern family tree, but it will be a separate video from this one because, Jesus Christ, this is already too many cats for one video. This family tree is entirely black-based, and the vast majority of cats on it are just black or blue with various modifiers. That makes this a very easy tree. Our main hurdle is just going to be keeping track of leucism, the type of white that causes white spotting, and dominant white, which are on the same locus. W is the allele for no leucism, which means no white. The S allele causes white spotting and is codominant with W. So SW heterozygote cats are less than 50% white, and SS homozygote cats are over 50% white. Lastly, there's WD for white dominant, which is what it says on the tin. Fully white, and it's dominant over everything. It's also epistatic over everything. It doesn't matter what a cat's got going on anywhere else on any other color locus. Got at least one WD? Cat's all white now! Wah wah wah. Bluestar is a very aptly named solid blue cat. Blue is dilute black, so she's got at least one capital B for black on the B locus, and then two little d's on the dilution locus, since dilution is recessive and represented by little d. Solid means she's homozygous little a on the agouti locus. More on this later. She also needs to have blue eyes, but in order to have blue eyes, a cat needs to have white on them. Or one of the countless mutations that I hate using for these challenges, they defeat the point for me. Thankfully, her description on the wiki says she has a, quote, silver-tinted muzzle, which isn't a thing on solid cats, so I'm going to choose to interpret this as white. That makes Bluestar and SW heterozygote. For book-accurate Bluestar, we stop here. However, just like with Hawk-Frosted Mothwing, I really like Point Bluestar, so I'm gonna make her mink. Quick rundown of the albino locus. Siamese, sepia, and complete albino are all found on this locus. Capital C is a normal cat, recessive to that is CS for Siamese, and then CB for sepia, which is like Siamese except way darker. However, CS and CB are incompletely dominant with each other. Heterozygous CSCB cats will be an in-between shade of point called mink, and then of course full albino is recessive to everything else. So we're going to give her one CS and one CB allele, making her mink. That's all we need to know about her for now. We'll come back to her unknown genes as we need them. Her sister Snowfur is simply described as being white with gray-tipped ears. If the white is going to cover all of her except her ears, then she needs to be high white, so she'll be homozygous SS. By the way, when a white cat has spots of color on their head or ears, that cat is called a van, which coincidentally is also the thing that she got hit by. So that means I'm doing something right. Those van markings are also blue. Blue is just the breeder terminology for gray, so that's the same as her sister. Capital B for black, and then we dilute it with two little d's. Like Bluestar, she's solid, so that's another little a. So this is stupid. You can absolutely have Snowfur as described just like this. You totally can. This is fine. But I think it's so fun. I know this is like the fourth time I'm doing this. Bear with me. I love being sneaky and weird about this. I love Point Snowfur, because the way I draw her is like, her van spots are like this, but her mink is so light that you can barely see the difference between the point white and the leucistic white, so it looks like her leucism goes higher than it does. Sneaky hidden point. I don't know, I just think it's funny. So she's gonna be CSCB for my silly mink trick. It's not necessary at all to make her book accurate. Hell, if anything, getting very strict with book accuracy would make her white climb up to everything but the tips of her ears and make the mink point moot. But let me have fun here. So now we have the kids, let's figure out their parents. Stormtail is easy, he's described as a dark gray, so dark gray he shall be. No matter how light or dark, gray is gray, so he's the same as both kids. Capital B for black, and then homozygous little d for dilute, and of course, two little a's so he won't be a tabby. Now, as described, he would be a WW homozygote since he doesn't have any white, but Snowfur has two S alleles, she has to get one of them from dad. We could make her low white and rely on mink to make the rest of her very close to white. But, my constant point obsession notwithstanding, the point, of this challenge is to try and match the books as closely as possible. Mink would make most of her white-ish, and low white could cover her legs, but not her tail. Not enough. Additionally, I have a personal bias here. The more important a character is to the books I've read, and the more I personally care about them, the more important it is to me that they match their book description. When it comes to dilemmas like this where someone has to get a design change, I'm gonna give it to the character who matters less. Also, Stormtail has blue eyes, and if he wants to keep them, he'll need white anyway. So now that he's SW, he can give his S to Snowfur. He can also give it to Bluestar. Yay! But then we run into the same problem with their mom, Moonflower. Remember, Snowfur has 2 S alleles. She got one from Dad, but now she needs the other from Mom. As described, Moonflower doesn't have any white either, but she needs some in order to give it to Snowfur, so she'll also be SW. Her S is going to Snowfur, and her W is going to Bluestar, so she can be heterozygous. Alternatively, she gives the S to Bluestar, and Stormtail gets his W from Bluestar. Either way is fine. She gets an S and a W, that's all that matters. Luckily, white hides a bit easier on Moonflower's lighter design than it does on Darkle Stormtail. Interestingly, she's a silver tabby. Tabby is controlled by the Agouti locus. Agouti hairs are hairs that have banding. Black cats with at least one capital A allele on the Agouti locus will get Agouti hairs, black banded with red between their stripes, which gives them a kind of brownish look. Thus, a brown tabby is a black cat with Agouti. Diluting this black, of course, makes a blue tabby, but that's not how Moonflower is described. She's not blue or gray, she's silver with dark stripes. Silver is controlled by the inhibitor locus. If a tabby has at least one capital I on the inhibitor locus, it turns their red banding white, so instead of a brownish color between the stripes, they're silver. If a non-tabby gets a capital I allele, it turns them into a smoke instead. So that means Moonflower has at least one capital A for Agouti. However, both of her kids are non-Agoutis with 2 little a's, so they need 1 little a from each parent. Stormtail only has little a's to give, so that's easy enough. Thankfully, little a non-Agouti is recessive to capital A Agouti, so Moonflower will simply carry a recessive little a that she can give to her kids. The wiki doesn't specify black or dark blue, it just says dark, so for funsies, let's keep her black. That means she's going to have at least one capital B and a capital D, which is non-dilute. This is going to be similar to Agouti, wherein she carries a recessive little d so she can give it to both of her kids. As for what type of tabby she is, mackerel tabbies have tiger-like stripes, and classic tabbies have big, blotchy stripes. They're on the same locus. Capital MC is the dominant mackerel, and little MC is the recessive classic. Let's make her mackerel. That's at least one capital MC. Is she homozygous? Is she carrying little MC? What did she pass to Bluestar? What does Stormtail have on the MC locus? We don't know, and that's good news for us, and it gives us the freedom to come back and fill in these blanks if we need specific genes later. Lastly, neither of the parents here are points, so they'll need to carry CS and CB respectively so that Bluestar and Snowfur can be minks. Again, this isn't necessary for book accuracy, I just like it. Which parent carries CS and which carries CB doesn't actually matter, so I'm gonna flip a coin. Oh, Jesus Christ, I said I'd flip a coin for this. Hold on, where's my fucking penny? Yes! Fellas, we've got a real coin here. Heads, it's Moonflower, carrying CS. Tails, it's Stormtail. Okay, I'm flipping this penny. Heads, okay. Moonflower is carrying CS, and Stormtail is carrying CB. Moonflower gives both daughters her CS, and Stormtail gives both daughters his CB. They still have their full color capital Cs to make themselves full color, and to give to either kid if you prefer one or both daughters non-pointed. Let's sidestep over to fan favorite Goosefeather, who is Moonflower's brother. So far, all the cats we've covered have been short hairs. Short hairs represented by capital L on the L locus. Long hair is the recessive little l. I'm gonna go ahead and add one capital L to everyone we have so far. Goosefeather, on the other hand, is a very scraggly long hair. I don't think I've ever seen him not drawn like a traumatized mop, and I don't want to. That means he needs 2 recessive little L alleles. Boom, now he's a long hair. He's blue, so capital B and 2 little D's, easy enough. He's also a spotted tabby. Let's give him at least one capital A to make him a tabby. Spotted is a polygenetic gradient trait. That means there's a ton of genes, too many for us to reasonably count to keep track of, that control a kind of gradient of traits. In other words, a spotted tabby is just a mackerel tabby with a ton of break up the stripes genes that break up their stripes. So he's going to be capital MC. I'm not writing down anything for spotted because it's polygenetic, so we'll just keep it in mind. Since we did both siblings, let's do their parents. Daddy Rooktail is just solid black. Capital B, at least one capital D, 2 little A's, easy. He's going to give his capital D to Moonflower, letting her stripes stay black. But Goosefeather has 2 little D's, so he needs one from each parent. That means Rooktail has to be heterozygous, carrying little D so we can give it to Goosefeather. Goosefeather also has to get a little A from him, since that's all he has to give. He can't have blue eyes without white, so they're green now. Fuck it, let's make him a long hair. So that's 2 little L's as well. That means he can only give little L's to his kids. Moonflower is a short hair, but she's carrying long hair. Now their mom, Daisy Toe, is... Hey, she's gray and white! Look, she's high white! That means she has to give white to Moonflower! Vindication! This does, of course, mean that she has to be homozygous SS in order to have high white. That means she won't have any W's to give to Goosefeather. Goosefeather's still getting one W from Daddy Rooktail, but since Moonflower only has S's, Goosefeather ends up heterozygous. In my initial pass at the script, I actually edited Daisy Toe to be low white, saying that and white doesn't necessarily mean that the white has to be high, even though that's normally how the term is used. This was because Goosefeather didn't have any canon white, and if he's going to be homozygous at WW, Daisy Tail would need at least one W to give to him. But then I got to the art phase and realized that Goosefeather has blue eyes, so white for him. Enjoy your blue, Goosey boy! Other than that, she's gray. You know the gray drill by now. Capital B, 2 little D's, looking good. She's a short hair, so that she has a capital L to give to her also short hair daughter, but she's heterozygous so that she can give a long hair little L to her fucked up son. But now we run into a problem. She's not described as a tabby, but her son Goosefeather is a tabby. He needs to get that capital A from somewhere in order to stay true. So, do we need to cover Daisy Toe with non-canonical stripes? No. Remember when I said the capital A allele causes agouti hairs? On a mackerel or classic, some hairs are agouti and some aren't in a pattern causing stripes. However, there's a third special kind of tabby that makes agouti hairs over their whole body. Mostly. There will still be stripes on the legs, face, and tail, but not the bulk of the body. It's called ticked, and it's on the TA locus. Capital TA codes for ticked. It's epistatic to the MC locus, meaning it overwrites the MC locus. If a cat has at least one capital TA, they're just ticked, and we can't see what's on their MC locus at all. Ticked is also incompletely dominant. Homozygous ticked cats have fewer stripes than heterozygous ticked cats, and Daisy Toe does have to be heterozygous because Goosefeather isn't ticked. If she was homozygous capital TA, she'd have nothing to give Goosefeather but capital TAs, and that would make him ticked, which he's not. That won't be a problem for us because Daisy Toe's white is going to cover up most of her legs and face. We may still see a few here and there, her forehead, upper legs, and tail, but it's close enough. So she'll be a capital TA little TA heterozygote. That little TA is going to Goosefeather. Since we have his mate's TA locus, let's just go ahead and fill in Rooktail's. He could hypothetically be anything here since his locus is invisible on a non-tabby, but we do know that he needs at least one little TA allele because, as already explained, Goosefeather needs one little TA from both parents to stay mackerel. So the only data we have about Rooktail's hidden stripe DNA is that he's got at least one little TA. Hidden underneath Daisy Toe's ticked will be at least one capital MC that she can give to Goosefeather. There's no reason I couldn't give this to Rooktail instead, so consider this another coin flip. Another problem, Moonflower has capital I for inhibitor so that she can be silver. I feel like giving it to Daisy Toe would make what few stripes are visible stand out too much, so let's just give it to Rooktail. As mentioned before, inhibitor on a non-tabby causes them to be smoke. On a short hair, ghost stripes are pretty heavily visible, but on a long hair like Rooktail, not so much. It's definitely a noticeable design change, sadly, but it doesn't make him look stripey, so I consider it a partial victory. Maybe a bit late to say it here, but with a little exception, we don't know much about cat eye colors, so eye colors are going to be by canon description or a personal preference, unless it's blue. Fuck blue. Let's drop back down and take a look at Snowfur's shitty husband Thistleclaw, and all of his sweaty tank top, cheap beer chugging glory. Evidently, they did not want to pay for color photography at the wedding because this is another blue and white cat. He's a blue tabby with low white and he's a long hair. Capital B for black, dilute it with 2 little D's, and make him a tabby with a goatee. I'm going to call him a mackerel because he's pointy, so that's a capital MC and an SW heterozygosity for low white. And 2 little L's for long hair. Phew. Their only kid is Whitestorm, who's a solid white long hair. Neither parent has any WD alleles, so white dominance out of the question. Is this a problem? No. SS homozygotes cats can, though it's uncommon, be fully white. And with mom's white-shaped polygenes already pushing Van, it's very easy to say that Whitestorm is just a lucky SS homozygote. Fun thing about SS homozygotes who are entirely 100% white is that they're born with Van spots on the top of their head that go away as they grow up. So little Whitestorm probably more closely resembled his mama. Cute. As some foreshadowing for the Dustfern video, yes, this means that Ferncloud and Ashfur will have to have some white on them since Whitestorm can only pass S alleles, but it doesn't have to be very much. Thistleclaw's long hair, so he only has little L's to give to Whitestorm, which is good. And you'll recall that Snowfur is carrying the little L that Rooktail gave her. She gives it to Whitestorm, keeping him long hair. Easy. Let's leap over to the other side of the river here and talk about Oakhart. Funny, I was expecting him to be a tabby since that's how everyone draws him, but he's actually only described as reddish-brown. So far, all of our cats have had at least one capital B for black. On that same locus also exists little b for chocolate and B1 for cinnamon. Capital B black is dominant over little b chocolate, and little b chocolate is dominant over B1 cinnamon. Oakhart is going to be solid chocolate. Excitingly, our first non-black cat. Still black, base since he's not ginger, but not black. Strictly speaking, he only needs one little b to be chocolate, since he could be heterozygous little b b1, but, spoiler alert, his kids are all just blue, and then the lineage ends, so I'm not worried about leaving room for recessives here. He'll just be homozygous little b for simplicity. It's not like we can't just change it later anyway. He'll have 2 little A's, so he's not a tabby. He's also long hair, so 2 little L's for him, and he has no white, so 2 W's as well. Snowfur and Mosskit are basically identical. They're both solid blue, and I'm deciding that they're both long hairs. The only difference is Mosskit has lighter paws, or misty feet, if you will. So let's do what they have in common first. Like Moonflower, Bluestar has a little L that she can pass to both Snowfur and Mosskit. Oakheart has long hair himself, so he can only have little L's. Bluestar can only give little D's, since that's all she has, and Oakheart can just be carrying one. They're both homozygous for little A, so both kids can only get little A's, which is perfect. Lastly, Bluestar gives Snowfur and Mosskit her capital B for black, so that they'll dilute to blue. However, since Oakheart can only give them little B's for chocolate, Mosskit and Snowfur will both be carrying chocolate. Dilute chocolate is lilac, by the way. That doesn't matter here since they're just carrying it, but fun fact for you. Anyway, Snowfur has no white. That's Bluestar's single W and one of Oakheart's W's. Really could have used either of those against Blackstar. Oh, wait, he has blue eyes, so that means he needs to have white on him. Well, we could give him green eyes. Green can look bluish in the right light. Or we can just give him a small amount of white, which is what I'm gonna do, because I want him to have the same eye color as his sister to further their identicalness. I just think it's fun if they look all twinsies. So we're taking away his Bluestar given W and replacing it with her S. Just like Blackstar took away his W with Mosskitar's misty feet, like her mom's face, I'm going to interpret as white. So she's getting her mom's single S allele, and then of course Daddy Oakheart can only give W's, so that's what he's gonna do, making her heterozygous just like we want. Realistically, a cat should have white near their face to have blue eyes, but I'm drawing white on all the faces for this video anyway. That counts, right? I could swear I'm forgetting someone. Let's see. Mosskit, check. Stonekit, check. Oh shit, how long have I left Mosskit out in the snow? Now, I always see Mosskit drawn with high white, and I also envision her with high white. However, strictly speaking, her description just says gray and white. So I think it's okay to just give her a nice tuxedo and call it. The reason we have to do this is, well, high white comes from SS homozygosity, but Oakheart can only give his kids W's, so there's no place for her to get her second S from. We could give Oakheart a tiny splash of white to solve this, but I'm making the call not to. Maybe on another day I'd make a different decision, but if we gave Oakheart white, it would have to come from somewhere, and neither of his parents have white, so this is the most book-accurate description. As for blue and solid, same process as their siblings. A little headcanon of mine here, by the way, is that Mosskit, the one who froze to death, is the litter's only short hair. Thus, the freezing to death. Oakheart only has long hair, little L's to give her, so that means she got her short hair capital L from Mom. Sorry, Bluestar, but that does make it your fault. Now that horrific incident of kitten trauma is over, how about another? Oakheart's brother Crookedstar is a light brown tabby tom. No reason that a brown tabby can't be light, but since Oakheart's already chocolate, I'm gonna have Crookedstar be chocolate too. It fits how I see him in my mind better. I also see him as a classic tabby. 2 little B's for chocolate, at least 1 capital D because he's not diluted. If he was diluted, he'd be lilac. He's not lilac, he's chocolate. Here's a capital A to make him a tabby, and then since little MC classic is recessive to capital MC mackerel, he can't have any capital MCs. So he'll have to be homozygous little MC little MC. He has no white, so here's 2 W's. He's also a long hair, so that's 2 little L's. As usual, we did the kids, let's do their parents. World's Worst Mom Award, and that's a high bar, goes unquestioningly to Rainflower, the absolute piece of shit who I'll be personally skinning alive as soon as this video ends. Thankfully, her genes are simple, so we don't have to look at her for very long. She's just a solid blue... They don't specify her fur length. Huh. Let's go with short hair. I want this bitch shivering whenever she swims. Capital B, black. She also needs to be carrying little b for chocolate, so she can give it to both sons as well. 2 little D's for dilute, as well as 2 little A's, so she's not a tabby. She has 1 capital L, which will make her a short hair, but she's carrying that little L she gave to both of her sons. On to Shellheart, who is... Ooh... He's also dilute. Shellheart is a quote-unquote... dappled gray tom. I normally take dappled to mean a spotted tabby, so we'll give him a capital MC for mackerel, then he's got a capital B for black, and like Rainflower, he's carrying little b for chocolate. With both parents each able to give 1 little b, Oakheart and Crookedstar are both successfully Willy Wonka'd. But 2 dilute parents cannot have non-dilute kids together because dilute is recessive. They only have little d's to give, but you need a capital D to be non-dilute. Oakheart and Crookedstar aren't lilac, they're chocolate, so someone has to give them a capital D. So let's see what we can do here. I could make him black, but then his agouti would make him a brown tabby, because agouti black is brown. Now, it is possible for brown tabbies to look very salt and peppery. This is a polygenetic trait, not something you do Punnett squares for or write a letter about. This, I suppose, is a possible solution, and maybe my eyes are just too well trained for recognizing cat colors. I don't think any kind of brown is going to suffice for Shellheart. But he's a much darker gray in his wiki image than Rainflower is, so if either of them has to be non-dilute, it's going to be him. How can I still give him his spots and make him grayish if he's black, but he's not a brown tabby? So, smoke cats, remember that's capital I inhibitor acting on a little a non-tabby, often have ghost striping. That isn't very visible in long hairs, but it is very visible in short hairs. So I'm going to make him smoke. He's ghosting spotted, which you'll recall is mackerel being affected by polygenetic modifiers, so he gets a capital MC. He's also heterozygous on this locus, so he'll need a little MC for classic to give to Crookedstar. He also only gets one capital I inhibitor. If he was homozygous capital I, he'd only have capital I's to give to his kids, leading to Silver Crookedstar and Smoke Oakheart. So Shellheart will be heterozygous capital I little I. He's smoke, but he's carrying non-inhibitor. Wait, but shit, fuck. Shit, one of their kids is a tabby. That means one of them needs to be a tabby. Again, it would be easy to solve both problems by just making him a very low rufused, aka grayish, brown spotted tabby, but I just don't want to. So let's pull out an old trick. Remember, Ticked, we don't have any white to cover at this time, but that's okay. If Rainflower hates any stripes, she can take it up with a manager. They're only on her face, legs, and tail anyway. Yes, she has to be heterozygous capital TA little ta so that Crookedstar can still get little ta and stay classic, which means she's slightly more striped than a homozygote would be, but whatever. And again, if this bothers you, if it's really important that she be totally stripe-free, then take low rufous brown tabby Shellheart from my shaking hands and run. That changes Rainflower's genotype from little a non-tabby to a capital A little a heterozygote tabby. Crookedstar will get her capital A, and Oakheart will get her little a. She's also carrying at least one little MC allele to give to Crookedstar, and so will Shellheart. We don't know what her other allele is here. Okay, that nightmare is over. Thankfully, the next two cats are very simple. Crookedstar's Lady Willowbreeze is also a silver tabby, so she's going to have inhibitor, but she's described as silver gray, so I'm going to make her a blue silver tabby. So a capital B for black, and then we'll dilute that black into blue with two little d's. Then we'll make her a tabby with capital A. I'm making her mackerel since that's what I imagine Silverstream being, so that's at least one capital MC. Then I turn all of her agouti hairs silver by giving her at least one capital I for inhibitor. Boom, blue silver tabby. Oh, and she's short hair, so at least one capital L. Their buff daughter is Silverstream, who is supposed to strongly resemble her mother, but is described as having black stripes. So we're going to give her mom's capital B for black, mom's capital MC for mackerel, the capital A agouti could have come from either parent really, mom's capital I for inhibitor, but dad's capital D to keep her stripes black. Since mom only has little d's to give, this is going to make Silverstream a capital D little d heterozygote. Also, since Crookedstar only has little b's to give, Silverstream is also carrying chocolate. She's also short hair. That means she's getting mom's capital L, but like with chocolate, Crookedstar can only give little L's, so Silverstream's carrying long hair. Since she doesn't have any white, sadly that means no blue eyes. That's okay. Green can look very similar in the right light. And with that, we have everyone. I'll do Silverstream's kids when I get around to Graystripe's tree, but that one is a hellscape. Their kids aren't difficult, though. They're just blue, and Silverstream's already carrying dilute, so it's not hard to fill in those blanks. I plan on covering Whitestorm's family tree as a sequel to this one, and then either in that video or the next covering Dust Fern, and then I guess I'll have to brave the trenches of Graystripe. But suggestions are open, so tell me who else's tree you'd want to see. Until then, bye-bye.